Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us for this Artem Research Collective webinar, Teaching Outside the Lines, Igniting Creativity in the K-12 Classroom Through Collaborative Creative Inquiry. So prior to beginning, I just want to acknowledge that I'm an uninvited guest on the traditional and unceded territories of the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh nations. So I want to invite you to also acknowledge the lands that you are currently situated on. So just a brief roadmap of our discussion today. I'm going to give us a brief introduction to the Artem Research Collective. I will also discuss what is collaborative creative inquiry, and then we're going to have an opportunity to actually try it out. So my name is Melanie Wong. I'm an associate professor of teaching in the Department of Language and Literacy Education at the University of British Columbia, Canada. I'm an educator, a teacher of teachers, a technology-enhanced researcher focused on supporting K-12 education, and I'm also a very proud member of the Artem Research Collective. On the screen right now, you can see a recent photo of our collective. There's four of us, Megan Kumar, myself, Natalia Balzhnikova, and Yazid Ortega. We are interdisciplinary scholars, and we are very much part of this Artem Research Collective, but also very interested in creative methods. So Artem is a collective rooted in art, creativity, and community. Our name brings together arte, art, craft, passion, and Artemis, strength and resilience. And on the screen, you're going to see some images from our CCI, our Collaborative Creative Inquiry sessions. Hopefully they will inspire you to think of how you might take up this work in your own classrooms. So the Artem Research Collective is committed to healthier, safer research with communities. We also want to respond to the needs of vulnerable groups, and also imagine pathways towards a more just world. If you are someone that engages in social media, I want to invite you to follow us on Instagram at our Artem Research Collective page. You'll see a QR code there where you can scan to follow us on Instagram. And then also you can see our website, which also has a QR code. And if you want to check out a little bit more about our collective, the fact that you are watching this webinar tells me that you have already found our Artem Research Collective YouTube. So thanks so much for joining us for this. So what is Collaborative Creative Inquiry, or CCI? So Collaborative Creative Inquiry, or CCI, the central part of CCI is this idea of inquiry. This is really critical for us as an Artem Research Collective. Inquiry is the journey into understanding something. And as you can see, what's unique about CCI is that it is a participatory process that invites creativity into the inquiry process. So we use a variety of different creative methods. On the screen right now, you can see we've used Play-Doh, and in other images you've seen we've used paint and so forth. But really the focus of collaborative creative inquiry is this notion of inquiry. It's about understanding something. So with CCI, there's a particular process to it. And in the next little while, I'm going to express and discuss a little bit more about what CCI is. I do want to just pause a moment and just indicate you don't have to be a poet. You don't have to be an artist. Really, the whole focus of CCI is around the creative method and supporting that by engaging in this creative method, it will support the inquiry process. So just briefly, step one is to question and provoke. So if I am a K-12 educator and I'm in a K-12 classroom, together with your students, you're going to identify and discuss an important issue or problem that is facing your community currently. And it can very much be linked to curriculum. In step two, we're exploring and creating. So as a teacher and in consultation with my students, I will select a creative method or medium, which will really help me to support me and my students to engage in this inquiry. For example, I might engage in music composition, poetry, drawing, or drama, just to give you some examples of some creative methods and mediums. Step three is engaging and sharing. After engaging in this creation of an artistic piece, the students will come together to share their artistic creations with each other. And this is very critical. This is a critical part of collaborative creative inquiry, hence the collaborative part. This exchange allows for opportunities to engage with one another's perspectives, experiences, and interpretations of the provocation. Step four is about reflecting and practicing. So this reflective discussion that occurs after the creation of artistic pieces is really about sharing about our experiences, but also unpacking the learnings and the new insights. And this notion of praxing is really critical. It's important to understand potential avenues for action or change. And then step 5 is about adapting and transferring. So in this final step, students will receive feedback from their peers and their teachers. This feedback will support students to really redefine and refine their inquiry processes. What you see here is that CCI is an iterative cycle where it's not just once, but many times that we might engage in a CCI situation to really further our understanding about a certain particular topic. Students are also encouraged during this final step to consider how these new insights that they've engaged in and found and experienced through the CCI process can be transferred into different situations. So, for example, the questions that you might be asking your students is, what have I learned? How does this apply to the real world or another situation? When I think about CCI and I think about the different opportunities that we have done as an Art and Research Collective, our most recent inquiry has been around the notion of knowing and slowing. And we have gone through several iterations and opportunities through the CCI cycle to better understand this idea of knowing and slowing and using different creative mediums to support that conversation. So what you see is we go through questioning and provoking, exploring and creating, engaging and sharing, reflecting and practicing, and then adapting and transferring. And again, we might go through this cycle many times to better understand the idea of knowing and slowing. So let's try this out. I'm going to invite you in a moment to ensure that you have some pencil and paper, markers, crayons, paint, and so forth, whatever you choose to be your creative medium. You can pause this video right now and go and get these items. And I'm really looking forward to engaging in some CCI right now. So I'm going to encourage you again to go and do that. And I'm going to assume that you've already done that. And let's move forward so I can discuss the activity. So in this CCI process, I want you to identify an inquiry option. So there's 2 choices on the screen currently, teacher identity and comfort spaces. So you can choose one of those, or maybe you can choose something else that is percolating in your mind that you would like to inquire on. Once you've chosen this, I want to encourage you to choose a creative medium. So I already invited you earlier to get something to support your inquiry process. You can engage in writing poetry, you can engage in drawing, engaging in the creation of a mind map. You might want to paint, whatever that might be. And what I want to do right now is to encourage you to perhaps pause this video and for the next 10 minutes to engage in a creative activity of engaging in inquiry on the topic of inquiry you have selected. So you'll remember the 2 choices from the other screen were teacher identity and comfort spaces. So you might want to pause the video right now and engage in some CCI. Okay, so I'm going to assume that you have already engaged in some CCI. So what happens after this usually when we're engaging in collaborative creative inquiry? Well, usually what happens after the creation of some artistic piece, and remember the focus is not on being an artist or being a poet, but rather engaging in the inquiry using a creative method and medium. So discussion time and participation with your participants and students will occur now. So what could happen is if you were with others, you would have each person share their creative piece and share any insights they might have from this experience. Then the audience members will share any thoughts about the creative piece that you have just shared. Do they have any questions, a comment about what they've noticed, and so forth. And then after everyone has shared, I really want to encourage you to sort of consider the following questions. What new insights have you gained from this experience, and how might you engage your students in a similar experience, maybe another CCI session again? Um, so I want to encourage you to try this out with others as well. So I've talked a little bit about CCI, and hopefully you've also engaged in CCI, but prior to ending this webinar, I want to ask you, what are you going to do? How are you going to take up collaborative creative inquiry in your classroom? So I take a moment and think of one way that you might take up collaborative creative inquiry in your classroom. So just some final thoughts. I just want to say thank you so much for joining me for this webinar recording. I hope that you will get connected with us. And again, I'm just going to remind you that you can connect with us through Instagram. The Artem Research Collective has an Instagram page, and there is a QR code for you to do that. You can also get connected with us at our website. The fact that you have found our YouTube page is great. Look forward to upcoming workshops that will also be announced on our Instagram channel as well. And we're just so excited that you have engaged in our webinar. Thank you so much for your time and have a wonderful day and be creative. Thank you.